Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of the RacPacShow. Here with my co-hosts Chad and Ryan as always, and our guest Nico. Um, just wanted to remind you guys, leave us a like and subscribe on the channel. And without further ado, let's get into the show. So, I think we're gonna start off with news broke. An hour ago, 2 hours ago? Devonta Adams traded to the Raiders for a first and second round pick in this year's draft, and then Devonta Adams is expected to sign a 5-year, $141 million deal extension with the Raiders. So Aaron Rodgers had apparently said that he knew that Devonta Adams was probably never going to play another game as a Packer. He said that the relationship with the Packers was kind of like overtorn or just like worn out, and that he said he wasn't going to play with the franchise tag. So that was a big thing because they were going to tag him. So I don't know. This is AFC West gets even stronger. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't really care. I mean, I care, but don't really care that, what's the word? I don't know. I'm just glad that
Packers
are
going downhill.
Glad
as a Bears fan, as a football fan.
I don't know why Rodgers, if he knew that he was going to be gone, why would he come back to at least the Packers? So I don't know. It's confusing. I'm excited. The AFC West is going to be fun. Now, from a fantasy perspective, I don't know Adams he's going to drop a little bit.
Probably. Yeah, no, probably.
I mean, he's still a stud. Don't get me wrong. It's just I think he's going to drop a little bit as far as he's not going to have 17 touchdowns or whatever. So.
No.
But that is huge for the NFC North. I mean, I don't know. Now it's up to the Packers now, and in their history of drafts, they suck. So they have two first round. They have 2 first round picks this year.
Right now, yeah,
and
yeah,
the second round,
the 2 second rounds. I mean, there's a lot of wide receiver talent out there, free agent.
I know,
wise, but
that's why it's gonna be interesting to see
nobody's good as Adams.
And if they, imagine if they draft a quarterback. I know they're not going to, but just imagine. I would laugh. I would it would be hilarious. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the draft. But for now, it's NFC's wide open, or NFC North, I should say, is wide open. So, but yeah, AFC West is going to be fun to see. Each team, I don't even know. If you had to do a futures bet on AFC West,
dude, it's so hard. It's so difficult.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen I probably would go Raiders as last place just because, but you still don't know that. So yeah, it's crazy. I still can't believe he got traded.
Yeah, with the AFC West, I really like the Chargers. I love Justin Herbert, but obviously with them getting the Broncos getting Russ and Devonta going to the Raiders, I don't think he drops off as much as you guys think. Didn't Derek Carr and Devonta Adams play together?
Yeah, that's right.
In college.
Yeah, State, I think.
Fresno.
Yeah, I don't think he drops off that much. I mean, it's not going to be a connection like him and Aaron Rodgers, but to me, it doesn't make sense why he would sign this big contract with Green Bay and 0 weapons again. I don't know.
I think to me, it kind of shows us that Aaron Rodgers doesn't care about winning, in my opinion, anyway. He signs, 3 years, $150 million, fully guaranteed, so he automatically becomes the highest paid player in the NFL. And no, apparently he, like you said, he knew Devonta Adams wasn't coming back. And he also knew that they're in a bad cap spot this year. And I know the way they did his contract with the fully guarantees, it helps this year, but it's still going to be backloaded for the next 2 years anyways. So, I don't know. In my opinion, I just don't think he cares about winning. You look at a guy like Brady, for example, who's also obviously old, and we'll talk about him in a minute here about him retiring, but he's a guy who's always taken less money to be able to get pieces around him, and Aaron just doesn't seem to care. He just seems to be about the money. And I was listening to I forgot what show it was, but Greg Jennings was on there, and he basically said in his time there, he felt like Aaron Rodgers seemed to him as pretty selfish and kind of in it for the money. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, it's a job, and he's a great quarterback, but he can't expect to win if he's
Well,
costing his team good pieces around him.
yeah, and then you have, like you said, he had options elsewhere to go win.
And just this year, he said Devonta Adams, he said, is the best teammate I've ever, best player I've ever played with in my life. Literally.
Yeah, I mean, he could have gone to Pittsburgh. He could have gone to Denver. He could have gone to the Colts. Like, there were teams that had winning potential in it, and and Packers are going through a little bit, not like a huge like rebuild, but they're losing some key pieces like Zadarius Smith, and so they're cap space.
In my opinion, if they were going to win it, it was going to be last year because they had people to pay now. I mean, you saw they already lost Zadarius Smith. Jair Alexander's contract is coming up. Devonta Adams' contract came up. Now he's gone. They already lost a good pass rusher and a great wide receiver. And look at the team that just won the Super Bowl. What did they go after at the deadline? They went after receiver. They got Odell and Von Miller, pass rusher. And I feel like the way the league is pass rushers and quarterbacks and offensive line weapons is how you win games. And I don't know. In my opinion, I don't have them. I don't even think they're going to make the NFC Championship next year.
No,
I mean,
no.
They're going to be the typical regular season team as always. Maybe not even without Devonta now.
They see the 49ers, forget about it.
Yeah, that's true. Trey Lance will bury him.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. And like outside of the Rodgers thing, you have other crazy stuff that's going on. You have let's see, you have the Julio Jones being cut.
just to stay with
Amari Cooper to the Browns.
Yeah, if we just want to stay with the Raiders, the Raiders also signed Chandler Jones, a very good pass rusher, to a 3-year, $51 million deal. They also extended Max Crosby this offseason, so now they have 2 very good pass rushers. Derek Carr, I think, is underrated personally. I don't think he's by any means this great quarterback, but I think he's top 12, top 11 if you went through the quarterbacks. Obviously, he's still the worst quarterback in that division, which isn't saying a lot. I mean, that division is loaded, but like you said, you would have the Raiders as 4th in that division. I would probably agree just based off of the other quarterbacks, but I mean, that division now, in my opinion, has the best quarterback in the NFL, the best receiver in the NFL, some of the best defenders. I don't know. I don't know if there's ever been a division as good as the AFC West currently is ever.
Yeah, I mean, then you have the Chargers getting
J.C. Jackson,
and Khalil Mack.
J.C. Jackson, they got on a 5-year, $82.5 million deal. So another
if Bosa and isn't James he's kind of also someone who's frequently gets hurt too, right? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Derwin James.
Yeah, Derwin James was hurt last year.
But if Bosa,
he's the best.
Mac,
he's so good, man.
Derwin James, if these guys could stay healthy, especially Mac and Bosa, that defense is going to be very good. And Justin Herbert,
they remind me of the Rams of last year. 2 really good pass rushers, solid defensively. Pretty good offensive line, good weapons, a great quarterback. I don't know.
Huge that they got re-signed Mike Williams too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't believe they didn't make the playoffs last year, but
yeah, well,
listen, I mean,
whatever.
As good as all 4 of these teams are, at the end of the day, they got to play 6 games against each other this year. So someone's got to lose. You have Denver, who also signed Randy Gregory to a 5-year, $70 million deal. Apparently, it had came out that he re-signed with the Cowboys for the same deal, same money. But the Cowboys had something in there that said if you get fined or suspended, we can void the guaranteed money. And Denver didn't have that wording, so he basically went with Denver when he saw that.
The same thing with Zadarius Smith, right? Didn't he sign with the Baltimore Ravens?
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, he was going to sign with the Ravens, and he just flip-flopped on it. I don't know what the reasoning behind that was, but this one was because of that details in there about the suspension stuff.
But
then,
I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, just today, you have Baker Mayfield requesting a trade, which is huge. So what are some good spots for him? The Colts and the Seahawks.
He said apparently
backup quarterback.
I think he's good enough.
I mean,
So in my opinion, let's talk about Baker. He had said, or he demanded a trade, and he said one of the teams he was interested in was the Colts, which is personally where I would like to see him. I think it's a good coaching staff, good team. I think he would fit in pretty well. And then I saw Seattle. Seattle was interested in him. Now Seattle, I don't think he would succeed. I just don't think. I think Pete Carroll's outdated for the league. To be honest, I don't think he should be a coach anymore. But
I'm just trying to think if they trade him, okay, who's Cleveland's quarterback then? Is it
Case Keenum?
That's right. That's why I thought. That's what I remember too. But they're not. He's not going to be their long-term goal.
Although apparently Cleveland, because Cleveland had basically did everything they could for Watson. Then Baker kind of came out and like thanked Cleveland as if he was gone. Like, and then Deshaun came out today and said Cleveland's out of it, so they can't get Deshaun Watson. The Browns then said, okay, we're sticking with Baker. Baker then requested trade, and then Cleveland immediately kind of like denied their request, like basically said, we're not trading you. So I don't know. It's kind of a whole back and forth thing for the past couple days over there. Typical Cleveland though.
Yeah, but it's like I saw something online where it's kind of funny how soft Baker is, because you had these rumors about Deshaun Watson going to Miami and Tua playing all, through the whole year with all these Watson rumors. And the second Baker hears about Deshaun Watson coming to Cleveland, he folds and he like, oh, well, this is goodbye, Cleveland. And it's almost like he wanted an out. But I think the Colts would be a good fit for him. But now that another thing that happened tonight was the Panthers are officially out on Deshaun Watson as well. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers actually threw an offer into Cleveland for Baker, because it cannot be Sam Darnold in Carolina.
No, I mean, in terms of quarterbacks that are still out there via trade, it's, although I mean, like I said, Cleveland said they're not trading him, but for the sake of argument, we'll say, so Baker's out there, Jimmy G, that was another comparison, how you said the Tua thing. Like, you have Jimmy G, they traded up, took Trey Lance, and Jimmy G was an adult about it. I mean, granted, I wouldn't say he got them to the NFC Championship, but they were in the NFC Championship this year, and he did what he did. So, I mean, there's definitely that comparison. But Jimmy G's the other one. It's kind of him and Baker, if Baker's up for trade. I don't really know. I mean, Jameis is out there. Mitch Trubisky signed with the Steelers. I actually like that. I think the Steelers have been having like a very underrated offseason. They're signing like not like crazy names, but like they're like filling all their holes. Like Miles Jack, they signed. He's really good. They signed some other guys. Some offensive linemen that are pretty good as well.
I really hope he succeeds in Pittsburgh.
I think he's going to.
I really do. I just to shove it and but yeah. And then like no one's talking about is like he's not a franchise quarterback, but he's just a quarterback you could probably use to fill for like a year or two. Is Andy Dalton, because he was only a 1-year contract with the Bears. So like he just it's gonna be interesting to see what happens to him. I'm not saying he's a stud or anything like that, but he's like a good quarterback. He's even a good backup quarterback, but.
Oh yeah, he's a great.
If someone needs like a 1 to 2 year quarterback type of thing, someone's gonna sign him, and but no one's mentioned him. But the main quarterbacks right now is
who? I mean, I know they signed. I think they signed an extension recently, so that's probably why. But dude, if I were Tennessee, like, dude, do you really think Ryan Tannehill can get you to the Super Bowl? I don't know. I feel like I would be trying to look for a quarterback if I was Tennessee as well, especially with all the movement that was going on. I mean,
Aaron Rodgers.
What'd you say?
Didn't Mike Vrabel say no? We're sticking with Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah. Apparently, something came out that Aaron Rodgers was like building a house in Nashville or something, and so that kind of stirred up rumors. People were on Twitter saying, "Oh, is he going to Tennessee?" And Vrabel basically came out and just shut him down, shut the rumors down. So I don't know. I mean, Tennessee was the number 1 seed last year, and they. Tannehill throws, I think he threw 3 picks in the playoff game that they lost to Cincy. So
he reminds me of like a Carson Wentz, like
Tannehill.
Well, like not. I mean, Carson Wentz is better, I think, but like I'm just talking about like he's surrounded by. He's got a decent defense and he's got somewhat of a solid offense that could get him far enough to playoffs. And then as you can see, that's where he chokes. So
yeah, the only thing that I'll give Wentz a little bit of leeway. If you look at the Eagles when he was on there, and then the Colts, in terms of, I know he had Jonathan Taylor, that run game in Indy, and a great offensive line, but as far as receiving weapons, I mean, Michael Pittman's a nice receiver, but I don't know. He never really had a really good receiver yet. Now he has Terry McLaurin, who in my opinion is very good. He's just, hasn't been able to be as consistent because of quarterback play. I think Wentz, I mean, you look at his numbers last year, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. He didn't have a bad year. But I think it was just the way the season ended. Just left a sour taste in the Colts' mouth. So
it makes me wonder how they're going to use Antonio Gibson, like with Wentz did with Taylor. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's going to bring that kind of scheme. I know it's different.
Yeah, I mean, the
offense.
The problem is Washington lost Brandon Scherff, who is a pretty good offensive lineman, to Jacksonville, who has also been very active. In this offseason, they signed Christian Kirk, Darius Williams, who's a nice corner. They signed Brandon Scherff, like I said. They're spending a lot of money, which props to Jacksonville. I hope to see a bounce back year from Trevor Lawrence, but no, it's been crazy. I mean, just looking. Oh, and then the Von Miller signing, which in my opinion is a bad contract. I think. So, I was listening to a show talking about this trade, and they were going through Buffalo's defensive stats last year as a team. They were number 1 in yards, points, third downs. There was another stat, and then they were 11th in sacks. So now they get Von Miller on a 6-year, $120 million deal. He's going to be 33 by the end of this month. So, I mean, he's not a quarterback. He can't play forever. He's already had some injuries. In my opinion, I think this is going to be a bad contract. I think they kind of had to do it in order to just have this 1 to 2 year window with him, maybe, where they're going to try to get a championship. I mean, they have the team to do it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said these 2. I think it's going to be about 2 years that they have a window of with Von Miller. He still got in him for another 2 years, I think. And then if they fail with that, then it's going to be a fail of a signing. But if they can win at least one within the next 2 to 3 years with him, I know you got 6 years with him, but it's not terrible. As long as they win one, it's the goal at the end of the day. So, but 6 years though, for his age,
and it's not fully guaranteed by any means, but
no, I know.
6 years for a 33-year-old defensive end who has already had a history of injuries is kind of that's a risky contract in my opinion.
We'll see. I'm just excited with. There's just so much going on.
Yeah,
I'm excited for football.
The thing that sucks too is football's still 6 months away.
I know, and then you have because normally, between you would have just football right now with all the free agency and trades. You wouldn't really have the baseball thing. Spring training's going on, but now that the way things that happened this year, you got football, free agency, and trades, and then you got now baseball trades and free agency. It's insane.
I mean, we still have Tom Brady unretired. That was the weirdest. My first reaction when I saw that was not even because he's going back to the Buccaneers, who's obviously a Saints rival. I was just annoyed. I'm like, dude, what was this whole thing about? I'm like, I don't think anyone was surprised that he came back because I think a lot of people were surprised he retired. And the way he did it, you look at a lot of these retirements, Peyton Manning had a speech, had a press conference, Drew Brees, Joe Montana had a parade back when he retired. The greatest of all time was an Instagram post, and he didn't even mention the team that he won 6 Super Bowls with. I don't know, it just felt so weird. Every because he does a weekly podcast, I guess, and I would hear every week after that, he's just oh, you never know. And he's I'm going to take 6 months with my family. And he didn't even last 6 weeks. And he came back. I don't know. I feel like it was all planned. I really do.
The jokes and memes that I've seen about him is it's so hilarious. Giselle had him go to the store one Sunday.
Yeah. Giselle had him go to a Whole Foods on a Sunday. And he was nope.
He started doing chores at home.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Kids start bothering him. That's it.
They had originally franchise tagged Godwin. And then they ended up signing him to, I think it was a 3-year, $60 million.
Yeah.
They traded for Shaq Mason, who's a great
offensive
guard. He's a guard. He was on the Patriots. because they lost Ali Marpet retired, who's a great offensive lineman. He's young too. He's like late 20s, early 30s. So they'll be good again, presumably. If he, he said in his tweet coming back to Tampa Bay, there was a lot of rumors that he might leave to go to San Francisco because that's his hometown team, but I don't know about that. But he retired, and then Amari Cooper was going to be released, ends up getting traded to Cleveland, which seems to be a mess right now, for a fifth round pick, and then they swapped 6th round picks. So, and then Cleveland cut Jarvis Landry. Titans released Julio. Tom Brady is apparently recruiting. It came out this morning that Tom Brady DM'd Julio, trying to recruit him to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay also signed Russell Gage. So if they did sign Julio, they would have Mike Evans. Chris Godwin will probably be around midseason because he's coming off that ACL. Russell Gage, who's a pretty nice receiver, I think. And Julio Jones, who obviously, when healthy, is still pretty good in my opinion.
And you're probably thinking, and also probably Gronk too. I don't know if you said
Gronk. Gronk said it's likely that he would come back. It's funny because when Brady hadn't decided, he's like, oh, if I decided now, I'd retire. Now he's probably going to come back. But yeah. And then, what was the other? Oh, Allen Robinson signs with the Rams. So the Rams now have Kupp, Woods, Van Jefferson, Allen Robinson, and OBJ. It's five very good receivers. OBJ. Yeah, I mean, OBJ probably wouldn't be back till.
I mean, did they sign him yet?
I thought he got like a 1 year. Maybe not.
I don't think
maybe
he did
I
yet.
saw that.
That's why I'm like OBJ.
Yeah, no, I don't think he did, because right after Devonta Adams got traded, Adrian Amos tweeted out to him and Jarvis and said, hey, do you guys want to play together again? Which wouldn't even work because Green Bay has no money because Aaron Rodgers took it all anyways. So,
that's a shame.
I think that kind of covers it. I mean, it was a whirlwind of football, which I'm sure we'll have more in. Oh, the last thing. Deshaun Watson sweepstakes is officially down to Atlanta Falcons and the Saints. So I am fingers crossed. Let's
go
crossed.
Falcons.
Apparently, so I was telling Nico this before we got started. Kyle Pitts, Michael Thomas, and Deshaun Watson all have the same agent. And earlier this morning, Kyle Pitts tweeted out, Atlanta's about to be scary, with like a zipper emoji face, and then immediately deleted it and said, oh, it was about the Casey Hayward signing. But if it was about the Casey Hayward signing, why would it be like the keep your mouth shut emoji? That doesn't really make any sense. And then I saw Atlanta pushed back. It was some signing bonus for Matt Ryan that was supposed to get paid tomorrow. They pushed it back to Tuesday. So I think we're probably going to find out by this weekend a Deshaun Watson trade.
What an end of
oh my God, I hope
what an end of a career for. Imagine if they send him to the Falcons and
he doesn't have no trade clause.
Matt Ryan gets sent to Houston. Hey, thanks for all the years in Atlanta.
If I was Atlanta, so if I'm Houston, right? Do you want Matt Ryan for a year? Like, he's worth a lot. He's got a lot of money. Like,
Houston's not going anywhere.
I don't know what the contract detail exact, but they have Davis Mills, who I understand. Like, oh, it's Davis Mills, but he had a solid rookie year last year. And
True.
You might as well see what he can do. In my opinion, if you're Atlanta, if you trade for Deshaun Watson, I don't know what the contract, like how much you would owe him, but as kind of like a service thing to him, kind of just either let him just go seek a trade to any team, and that would put another quarterback out there, right? That the Colts could go after, etc. Or just release him and let him sign somewhere else, if that's something he wants to do. I think they had just signed him to like a 1 year extension or something.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be fun to see.
I know the Saints made a ton of cap room restructuring some contracts like they do every year. So I'm nervous. All I'm saying, one thing is Deshaun Watson is from Atlanta, and he would have Kyle Pitts, but Saints have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, presumably. So
it'd be more intriguing if they still had Peyton.
Is Kamara going to play this year?
It seems like it. I don't know. I mean, he's like on social media like normal. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I mean, technically, the Deshaun Watson stuff isn't even. There's still some active cases against him. So I don't know. And the other thing too is Watson's going to get suspended. It's just a matter of how much time. But the league is going to suspend him 100%. That I heard as well. But we'll see.
Well,
as a Saints fan, I mean, he's a young stud quarterback under contract for years to come. So I mean, that would save the franchise. I would hope Sean Payton would pull a Brady and just unretire right away.
If they suspend him, it'll only be for a few games.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
I don't know. They suspended Calvin Ridley for a year for making 3 fucking parlays in which he had his team winning. So games that he wasn't even in.
That's why I said for what he did, his allegations, just a few
so
games.
You never know with the NFL.
Just a few games.
That kind of covers all the NFL that's going on this week. So let us get into it.
Probably the biggest thing in MLB would be, in my opinion, is the Freddie Freeman signing.
Yeah. I think, well, we talked about it on last week's show. We all kind of said, and my thought throughout pretty much all the free agency up until the last couple of days was, I just don't see Freeman leaving. I just didn't see it. Like, I know they just won a World Series. Like, it felt like, you're bringing him back, feel good moment, won the World Series finally. He's been Mr. Brave
the
forever.
franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
And then before he even signs, the trade for Matt Olson, it was they traded Christian Pache, who's a nice prospect in my opinion, Shea Langoliers, I think he's a catcher, Ryan Cusick and Joey Estes, who are both pitchers. And then Olson immediately signed an 8-year, $168 million deal with the Braves. So once that happened, it was just kind of like, okay, Freddie's gone. And at the time, I had heard, Yankees and Dodgers. I had heard Blue Jays and Red Sox. Yeah, it was basically the whole AL East except the Orioles. But as always, the Dodgers land the biggest fish in the sea in the free agency. So he signed a 6-year, $162 million deal with the Dodgers. I
wouldn't say the biggest, but still a very important piece of that Dodger team.
I mean, the guy won MVP 2 years ago. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. My opinion, he's the best first baseman in baseball.
He's arguably probably the best top 2, top 3 players on that team right now. He jumped up to that for sure. I'd go Trey Turner as number 1.
Yeah.
And then who else? I mean, you got Bellinger, but I mean Mookie.
No,
so that's what that top
Bellinger
3
fell off.
Yeah, so I'd go top. I'd go
top 5.
I'd go top 3. He jumps to top 3 in that lineup for sure as far as overall players. Because I was looking at the lineup. You got Muncy, you got Will Smith, you got Chris Taylor, Pollock, Turner.
I mean, here. I'll do this. I'll project. This is like their projected lineup right now, this is the best lineup I've ever seen.
I just said it. Huh?
Yeah, but like if you were to go down,
I'm a Dodger fan.
If you were to go, hell no. If you were to go down the lineup, like in how they would probably have it, they'd probably have Turner lead off, him or Betts, and then which him and Betts would be 1 and 2. Then you'd probably have Freeman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleanup, you'd probably have Muncy.
Turner.
Then you'd probably Turner, Bellinger, AJ Pollock, Chris Taylor, Will Smith. I mean, where's the who are you?
I feel
pitching
bad for Gavin Lux.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like this was like a year he could have had like a breakout year, and then he kind of gets fucked.
There is a DH now. There's a DH now.
Yeah, but you have Pollock.
Yeah, but he gets injured all the time.
You got Chris Taylor. They just signed Chris Taylor. What the year he just had? He ain't gonna send the bench.
Don't forget also
Pollock's gonna be on the DH, and
there's
Taylor's
also
in the outfield.
There's also a trade deadline, so they're not done yet. The trade deadline,
they're
going to go after someone big. So no, they're going to get somebody else big too.
Oh, the Dodgers.
So Yeah.
I mean, Gavin Lux.
You already know that.
Oh.
Yeah.
They probably go.
I don't know.
It's the
Dodgers. I didn't think to get Freeman, but here we are.
I'll trade Kimberloom. I'll take Gavin Lux. I'll take him all day.
Yeah, anyone.
Give him for Lux straight up.
Dude, Lux will
We'll give you the contract.
They could get something for Lux, 100%. But
yeah, but I don't think they want to give him up.
Maybe not. I mean,
the only other problem is if Mookie does have his hip problem still, he's going to be playing second base. Because that's what they did last year.
And
I think to start, they're
so another thing too is apparently the MLB and MLBPA are continuing to extend Trevor Bauer's suspension.
Yeah, I saw that till the 16th.
So they might look for a pitcher because at the end of the day, they don't know what's going to happen there. Totally, they don't really know. They could go after a pitcher, and Gavin Lux could be I understand they probably want to keep him, But if that's like the deciding factor on getting a really good pitcher, and you can put Muncy at second, you could put Mookie at second. With Freeman now, Muncy's not going to be at first. Muncy's probably going to second.
My thing with that, though, no, Muncy is playing second. They interviewed him at spring training, and they're like, if we sign Freeman, I'm playing second base. I don't care.
Right.
But it's like, who are they going to?
I
I don't see them trading for a starting pitcher because there's not many out there. The only people that are trading pitchers right now are the A's. You got Minaya.
Right.
Sucks.
Yeah, but, I mean...
And Montas. Sucks.
See, I don't think... They're not aces, but I don't think they suck. I don't think they'd give up Lux for one of those guys either. But, yeah... The rich get richer is annoying. I don't know. The Dodgers and Yankees annoy me.
They lose two big players in Scherzer and Seager, and then they come out and sign Freddie Freeman. It's just annoying.
Right.
Like, it's just like I saw on your Twitter that they need a cap. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yes, that was a discussion I actually wanted to have.
A cap. I don't think they need a cap in baseball because
they have it in every other sport.
They upped the luxury tax, so if the Dodgers really want to pay for that and they aren't winning World Series, let them blow their money. I don't really care. They're not going to be a team that has, stud prospects in the future. They're not going to be a filled farm system, so I'm not really.
I mean,
too worried
it's
about
funny
them
though because you look at
future.
them. Bellinger came up through their system. Will Smith came up through their system. Chris Taylor came up through their system. I think they do for all the money they spend. They do have very good developmental whatever staff you want to call them. Muncy was a bust in Oakland, and now he's one of the better players in the league in LA. Mookie Betts obviously was proven. Freddie Freeman obviously proven. Trey Turner, Justin Turner came up through them. A lot of their Kershaw, obviously one of the probably going to go down.
Bueller, but he's
Dustin
still
May.
kind of
Bueller came up exactly.
Dustin May.
Bauer's the one that obviously they went out and signed. Kenley Jansen came up through them. I'm pretty sure. So
he's not like they prove. I'll put it that way.
It's not like they buy their entire team. Like they do. I'll give them credit. They do a very good job of developing players, even ones that may be perceived as busts, like Max Muncy from Oakland was nothing. He was probably just a no-name piece. Now he's one of the like I said, one of the better players.
Justin Turner too.
Yeah, it's just like I've said it week after week. Every single time there's a big name free agent, the Yankees and or the Dodgers are always in for him. I don't know. I think
because they are fine with paying the luxury tax because they think that they're always contenders. So
yeah, but that's
what they want to do. Luxury tax. I'm not too worried about it.
I think the luxury tax is just fucking bullshit. I mean, I think I give more props to the Rays being one of the teams that have the lowest like salary to spend, and they are always a top seed in the AL. They are one of the most well-run, right? One of the most well-run organizations I've ever seen for how little money they have and what they're able to do. But I personally would like to see a salary cap. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think, I cannot imagine, like, if this was the NFL, the Rams would probably be getting even more. It's just...
I don't think the NFL should have a salary cap either.
Oh, I think you're crazy.
Prospects, though, in football.
Right, because then players are getting limited on what they should be getting paid, essentially.
That'd be
every NFL
limited on what they're getting paid. Aaron Rodgers is getting paid $50 million a year for the next.
Every NFL team gets $300+ million before the season starts. Why is there a salary cap?
Because teams can't stack their teams. That's why big market teams will shit on small market teams every time. I'm just saying
that means it's the players in the end that are getting fucked.
Yeah, but
you could go from that perspective, but I don't think a player like has ever had a hard time. I think the thing that gives players the hardest time is the franchise tag. I think, if Devonta Adams were to go out say there was no franchise tag and he was just a free agent before what just happened, he would get his money. He would be the highest paid player at his position. Aaron Rodgers, highest paid player at his position. How much more fucking money do you need? $50 million a year for 3 years. He's the highest paid. I mean, Devonta Adams, $141 million over 5 years. They're doing just fine. But the problem is,
I'm just saying, if that's how teams want to structure their salary, then let them, because it might come back and hurt them.
The problem with not having a salary cap is in terms of competitiveness, small market teams get shit on every time in terms of landing free agents. They have to be, if they want to be good, they have to be like how the Rays have done, developing, going through trades. Like Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow were perceived as busts in Pittsburgh. Rays trade for them, develop them themselves, they become good. The Rays are never landing these huge free agents. Wander Franco, great prospect, going to come up through their draft, not someone they were able to trade for. That's how these small market teams have to work. And, we're fans of big market teams. You're a fan of the Sox. You and Nico, we're fans of the Cubs. I mean,
we're a big
there's
market
two
teams. Yeah.
Chicago's a big city. It's a big market. It's just there's two teams. But New York's the same way. The Mets and the Yankees. The Yankees are just the bigger team in New York. And there's tons of California
I get
teams.
what you're saying. I still just think that, look at the Dodgers. They've won one World Series in the past how many years?
Of course, but
they're paying X amount of money in luxury taxes.
It's not getting these free agents is not guaranteeing you.
They still have a good farm system,
and it was a COVID year,
right? And they beat. That's what's funny. They beat Tampa Bay in the World Series, the polar opposite of LA. But the problem is, LA and the Yankees are almost always going to be competitive because of this. It's signing these free agents doesn't guarantee you a trophy. You still have to play the games.
No, yeah, I get that. I also don't think that the Yankees have not been competitive.
I would say they're competitive. They're in the playoffs every year. They get pretty far. They've gotten to the ALCS two out of the last few years. They're
the goal is to make the playoffs,
and they have suffered. I will give.
That's what it comes down to. These contracts where players, like you look at, just say like you got Prince Fielder, Albert Pujols, Stanton. All those contracts have been busts for teams. So that's the risk that those teams are taking.
Exactly. And the Angels are the kings of getting fucked on their big deals. Look at Rendon. He's already looking like, okay, what the fuck happened to him? He had that crazy year and all of a sudden he's hurt all the time. He finally kind of started to look old the second after he signs that big deal with the Angels, but
because they got paid.
Obviously contracts can hurt you, but it just doesn't seem like, I don't know.
That's why I'm not.
And like Ryan says,
I do get what you're saying. I just don't think there should be a salary cap.
And like Ryan says, the frustrating thing is because of this, they're able to keep their farm systems intact. And that's why every year, not only do they get to go after all these free agents, come the deadline, I don't think there's ever been a better deadline team than the Dodgers. They get the Machado the 1 year. Then last year they get Trey Turner and Scherzer. Who knows what they're going to do this year? You know what I mean? So
that's why I've never been a fan of like basketball. Like I hate it'll be like a 2-year, $180 million deal, and it's like
that's the thing about football. MLB too is every contract is fully guaranteed. There's incentives in a lot of like football contracts, for example.
They get overpaid, man. Overpaid.
I think the NBA is another. The NBA doesn't have a salary cap, right? It's a luxury tax in NBA as well, I think. So that's, I don't know, the NBA just to look.
I think the luxury tax should be a higher tax, so they're paying more.
NHL is underpaid.
Well, they got a salary cap too. Look at it.
It's not as popular. I get it, but they just deserve to get more money. I mean, you look at what Connor McDavid. His deal was like 8 years, like $70 million.
Oh,
like to talk about one of the best players in hockey.
The best player in hockey, in my opinion. But just not. They just don't bring in as much revenue as. I get that, but it's just and they should grow over time. I mean, there weren't. The NFL wasn't having $300 or $150 million deals, 10 years ago. I mean, they're still getting paid a lot of money, but it wasn't that. That's why it said the Braves deals that they got for Acuna and Albies seem like steals. Albies,
and then you add Olsen on there, and I think they're still underpaid to what Freeman's getting paid a year.
Acuna, a lot of people, me included, I'm a huge Acuna fan, would say he's probably a top 3, if not top 5 player in the league. And he had an 8-year $100 million. They just gave Matt Olson 8 years, $168. And he's not close.
Do you remember what Buxton got? I feel like he'd get similar.
What do you say, Nico?
I said, and he hasn't played a single game with the Braves yet.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
But he's still proven.
It's just like it's a low risk, high reward for the Braves because they paid him, kind of like the Sox. They took a risk. They extended Eloy. They extended, they signed Luis Robert. you sign these players early without even knowing what's going to happen. You just take that risk, kind of like Acuna, and the player's like, oh, 8 years, this amount of money, I'm in. But, players that were like established like Olsen, then yeah, that's what they're going to do.
And Tampa Bay took this same risk, and they had to, because if Wander Franco turns out to be as good as he's supposed to be, if he turns out to be as good as he's supposed to be, he was probably going to be one of those guys that probably leaves because they don't have the money. But they signed him. It's still a huge deal. But think about it. Matt Olson, $168 million for 8 years. Wander Franco got an 11-year, $182 million. So it's more, obviously, than what Matt Olson got, but it's 3 extra years. He's a lot younger. How old is he? 21 years old? He'll be 32 at the end of that contract. He'll still be
his prime.
Right. He'll still be like in the maybe that toward the end of his prime, middle of his prime. So
now, Matt Olson's a great player, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely a downgrade at first base for them.
Of course. Matt Olson is by far probably the best defensive first baseman in the league. He's up there. I think he won the Gold Glove this year. He won a Platinum Glove, I think. But that's why him and Matt Chapman, another guy who got traded, were very good defensively. So he's better defensively than Freeman. He's got the power, but definitely as just a pure hitter, definitely downgraded. In my opinion, defense isn't as important at first base. I think Freddie Freeman was perfectly fine defensively. So definitely a downgrade, but if you were going to downgrade from Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson isn't a horrible option. Also, Matt Olson is from Atlanta, so that's a good thing
he'll
too.
Play better.
And Freeman's from California, so
yeah, Freddie Freeman is from California.
Olson will play better, being at home.
They just flipped.
Yeah, they did.
So that was a big probably decision factor.
Yeah, that was huge.
Really.
And then just to stay with Oakland, Matt Chapman got traded to Toronto.
What a team they have,
dude!
Holy
and then
shit.
it came
They're
out
starting pitching.
They have a good rotation.
I didn't even realize they got Kikuchi.
Yeah, they signed Kikuchi.
That was like 2 days ago.
They have Who is it? It's Kikuchi, Barrios,
Manoah,
Gosman,
Ryu.
That's his.
And then they still have Nate Pearson.
Which I think would be smart to put in the bullpen. I think that'd be, unless
I think they tried him last year to bullpen, but he did get hurt, so I don't remember.
He's one of those guys who's susceptible to it though, just because of how hard he throws. But no, and then it came out literally not hours after they traded for Matt Chapman that they were trying to get Jose Ramirez from the Guardians. Now, if that happened, holy shit! Like,
who's their second baseman now projected?
Biggio. Yeah, okay. And they had Semien last year.
But he's also a platoon to play third outfield.
Well, Chapman's going to be at third.
Could you imagine Vlad at first?
I'm just saying that's his platoon.
Could you imagine Vlad at first, Jose Ramirez at second, Bo Bichette at short, Matt Chapman at third? Who's in their outfield?
Springer,
Teoscar Hernandez.
Oh my god!
Gurriel.
Yeah, well, Gurriel might. Gurriel, I think, is more
catchers.
Probably.
Wasn't it? Oh my god! What's his?
Their catcher's okay. It was just some. It was I can't think of his name either.
I think he's a bigger boy, wasn't he?
Yeah. I can't remember.
Danny
Jensen.
Hold on.
He was one of them.
Hold on.
I
No.
don't think starter. I can't think of it either.
If someone said it, I know who it is. I just can't picture his name.
I know, that's what I'm trying to.
Alejandro Kirk.
No, I mean Kirk.
Yeah, Alejandro Kirk. That's who.
But they might honestly, they might have one of the best rotations in baseball. I don't know what the back end looks like.
In my opinion, they
might have his best starting rotation.
I mean, we'll see if Gosman can play. I think Barrios still has very good potential. Mm-hmm. Ryu, if healthy, is very good. I feel like they don't have that like Max Scherzer ace in that rotation. I think Gosman could be that. I think Barrios could be that. We'll see. But they have, like you said,
not Gosman.
Not Gosman?
No, I don't think Gosman. I say Gosman like a 3.
Really, Gosman had a really good year last year.
Not like it's a big deal or anything.
But like you said, 1 through 5 is very good.
They have Grichuk, who isn't like not terrible. He's a decent player.
He's a good utility
and they got Ross Stripling, who was pretty decent for the Dodgers last year.
And
so
and
that's another piece.
like I said, they probably won't get him, but they made that call for Jose Ramirez, which, and clearly by the way they've handled this offseason, they're going to be aggressive. So I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more moves they make, but bullpen or
especially by a deadline, yeah.
Right, and via trades, exactly. So
they're gonna be a tough team.
I like the Blue Jays. I hope they're competitive.
That AL East is gonna be something else.
We have to redo our predictions.
Oh, and that's why we kind of prefaced it with come like a week.
I might put them at 2.
Dude, I had them like lower, but now they might be.
Well, I had them at number 1. I think I had them at 3.
I might have them at number 1.
They're my favorite for AL.
So. One thing that's going to hurt the Yankees too is I'm pretty sure Aaron Judge is due next year contract. So, he's.
I think they were.
Isn't Stan's up soon?
There were talks of they're going to extend him.
So long, wasn't it?
I feel like he's been on that. I feel like he's been on that team for a long time.
Well, because the problem was take the Marlins deal. Because the Marlins,
he's still under contract.
Yeah, they traded.
It was a fucking, what was that, 12, 14 years?
I think it was a 12-year deal.
Yeah, so I mean Judge will be due and he'll get paid because, the only thing for him really is his health. His power is unbelievable. He's a pretty good hitter. Fielding is insane. His arm is great. So, I mean, he'll get paid, and I mean the Yankees will have the money to pay him, but I wouldn't mind to see him go somewhere else.
Who knows?
And then just to stay on the Yankees, the Yankees traded with, so the Twins had just traded for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but the Yankees got Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Ben Rotvet from the Twins for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. So,
look, I don't know what the fuck the Twins are doing as a Sox fan. Because how do you trade Barrios and who's the other one? Don't they have 2? They trade 2 starting pitching.
Maeda.
Oh, and Rosario. But I'm just saying, how do you trade all these guys in the next year? I thought they were just going to try and fold and rebuild, but then you sign Buxton, and then I thought they signed someone else, but then they get this trade with the Yankees, and it's like, are you trying to rebuild?
They also traded Cruz last year at the deadline.
Yeah, that's I think who else I was probably thinking of. But yeah, that's just I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm not worried about them, but they have no pitching.
The only thing I might defend them on with those two is just Barrios contract was up, and so was Cruz, so maybe that's why. But I mean, true. But if they are trying to contend, you would think, those would be 2 guys you want to keep. But that's not even the most confusing. The most confusing is the Rockies signing Chris Bryant. That is the most.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah,
7 years
closer to home.
7 years,
182
money. Okay, yeah. For him, it's fine. 7 years, $182 million. For him,
what the fuck are the Sox doing?
I'm happy for him. But from the Rockies' perspective, they traded Nolan Arenado and $50 million to the Cardinals. They basically paid the Cardinals to get rid of him. They don't trade Trevor Story at the deadline and let him walk, so they get nothing for him instead of trading him. And then they signed Chris Bryant, who plays the same position as Nolan Arenado. Obviously, there's talks that they're going to put him in the outfield, but same position essentially as Arenado, and they signed him to this huge deal. It just doesn't make any sense.
It literally makes me feel like Chris Bryant literally went up to the GM and was like, I want to play here because I'm closer to home, and I don't want to play anywhere else, so you better sign me. And they're like, okay. That's pretty much what it seemed like.
Yeah, and for Chris Bryant, like if he wants to play closer to home, he wants to play. And listen,
yeah, for Chris Bryant, yeah. But I'm talking about if you're a Rockies fan organization, yes, you're happy you got Chris Bryant, but I'd also be like, what are we doing?
Yeah, right. And I mean, the hell now at the same time, Trevor Story isn't totally off the table, but they're not even listed as one of the teams going for him. I think it's like the Astros, Cardinals, and I forgot there's a third team.
The Red Sox,
yeah. One thing I saw that was beyond the pale stupid to me was it said, if the Red Sox do sign Trevor Story, they would probably put him at second base. That is the dumbest possible thing you could do, in my opinion, because he is way better defensively than Xander Bogaerts is. I don't know why the fuck they would do that. That'd be stupid.
I don't think so.
It'd be
Trevor Story.
I could hear it now with the Rockies. You hear like a headline: Chris Bryant hits his 45th home run. The score is 12-2. Rockies Really?
Yeah. Like, dude, I was listening to MLB Network Radio this morning on my way to work, and the guy said it was like, it'll be fun for Chris Bryant. We'll see him, doubling off that fence. He'll be hitting home runs out of the concourse in left field. But from the Rockies, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
No, my prediction with kind of piggyback off what Ryan said is, I think that Bryant is he's either going to have like 2 really good years and then fall off and then be like hurt. And that way he can be closer to home. So he doesn't have to deal with all the traveling. And that way he's still getting paid. Or he's just going to kind of be like an average player there and not really do too much.
From my perspective, from when he was on the Cubs, I always kind of saw Bryant as like a very introverted, like, I don't think he liked dealing with the pressure from the media and like fans because he was underperforming after his MVP year. Like, he was having some down years. I don't think he liked dealing with that. I think he got his ring with the Cubs. He got an MVP, and I think he's kind of satisfied with that. I think now it becomes, like you said, I think it's a comfortability thing for him now. I think, like you said, closer to home. Colorado has no expectations in terms of, winning. He's in a place where, he's going to play his home games at Coors, which could boost up his numbers a bit, make him look better. But that's just my perspective. I still love him. I love Chris Bryant.
Even Bryce Harper reached out to try to get him to come to Philly.
Yeah.
And he's like really good friends with them. But obviously he's more comfortable playing in his
never know
too. Home.
You never know too, like what the Phillies even offered him. I know Schwarber signed with them, so
well, they're also looking at Castellanos too. So it's like you're going to pay Castellanos. So if you're going to pay Castellanos,
and then that's the thing for a lot of these teams. There's still a lot of big names out there. Correa's still out there. Story's still out there. Sparked
I
up
feel like
now
these guys are going to end up signing 1-year deals though. These studs that are out there.
You think
because
so?
I just think there hasn't been enough time on the free agent market, like with the whole lockout.
In my opinion, I think I could see that with Correa, especially with Houston. I could especially see him doing like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, but Story didn't have a good year last year, so if he played 1 year, got his numbers up, and it's like, oh shit, now we can, offer Story's like, I'm gonna get
see it, but I don't know what it is.
30 million more.
I just feel like I see Story signing a contract. But if we wanted to just, we could talk about the kind of, you guys could talk about the Sox. Me and Ryan could talk about the Cubs. Kind of
disappointments of the Chicago team not doing jack shit.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, you want to go 0-2 on your teams? Saints might not get Deshaun, and then you're gonna go 0-4 with Correa on the Cubs.
So I'm more confident in the Saints getting Deshaun than I am in the Cubs getting fucking Correa, man.
Set.
What'd you say?
You guys signed Andrelton Simmons. You guys are set.
Oh, not just Simmons. Not just Simmons, VR. Don't forget.
Yeah, and so I was talking to Ryan, and I told him and I can't say the Cubs made no moves. They signed what's his name? Seiya Suzuki, right? So he'll be debuting in the MLB. He's an outfielder. In his career in Japan, he's a career around 309. On base is over 400, so he's a good hitter. Gets on base. Power didn't seem crazy to me. We'll see. All these Japanese guys are very hyped. Ohtani obviously has kind of lived up to it. Tanaka never did.
Ukadome.
Yeah, that's what Ryan said. Hopefully he's not another one of him. But that was a big one. I don't want
the Sox getting him.
Obviously, we've signed Stroman to that 3-year deal. And we were talking about, like Troy said, like, signing, the Suzuki guy and Stroman's a good start to a rebuild. I'm like, you don't sign Stroman to a 3-year deal for a rebuild. That 3 years, you're not going to rebuild. Like, it doesn't make sense. So,
I never was high on Stroman either. So
no, I think he's a fine pitcher. I think he's a 3 guy in the rotation.
Yeah, and he's your ace.
And he's our ace, exactly.
No. Hendricks.
Shit.
But here's the thing. I never expected the Cubs to compete this year. I never expected this year to be the year where they're going to contend. But I expected them to,
make moves that you can contend in the upcoming years.
I expected them to get a Correa or a Story, because they just traded for Madrigal. Whether these prospects, young guys, pan out or not, you have to build as if they're going to. Because then why the fuck did you trade for them if you don't think they're going to be anything? So I think you got Madrigal. You sign one of those shortstops. You have your middle infield set for the future. That was my opinion, but and then I told Ryan, I'd be shocked if they made any huge move from here on out. And I told him, this is either yesterday or 2 days ago. I go, it's probably going to be a lot of these 1 to 2 year deals on no name players. And what do? They've signed like 3 different relievers to 1 year deals. Andrelton Simmons to a 1 year deal. VR they just signed to a 1 year deal. It's going to be a lot of that for the rest. I don't think that's my opinion. What they're going to do the rest of the franchise or the
That's what I said.
I think my bold prediction for that team is you guys move Contreras by the.
I can see that too. I'm surprised we haven't yet. When everyone got traded last year, I'm surprised
if we're like I think we will be trash come trade deadline, we'll move them probably.
And it's funny because you have I listen to MLB Network, I watch it a lot, and a lot of these analysts are saying that a good fit for Correa would be the Cubs, like not the best, but a good fit.
There was a lot of interest, like they were talking,
and but we have dumbasses who run the front office, and that's just how it's gonna go, and. So, I mean, it's a shame, but who knows?
I think Correa, like Chad said, I think he stays with Houston. He signs the 1 year deal just to stay with Houston, just because of the whole lockout thing. Signing Stroman, I don't think it was a bad signing because he's more. He gives me Javi Baez vibes, where he's got that like swagger,
high energy.
Yeah, high energy, and he's trying to recruit Correa, and he's kind of toxic, but he's kind of a good guy to be in the clubhouse at the same time.
No, and listen, I liked the signing when it happened, and I still like the signing. I'm not saying it's part of a rebuild, but he's a guy where I think a 3-year deal was smart because he hasn't shown that he's like ace potential or like ace caliber stud pitcher. So I think a 3-year deal for him is smart. Because you do run the risk of, because I think he has had injuries in the past. You run the risk of him declining. But at the end of this 3 years, he's a good, like you said, seems like a very good clubhouse guy. Like he was definitely, I saw him recruiting Correa. I love him. And he's been, really hyped about playing for the Cubs. He said it's the only ballpark he's never played in. He can't wait, this and that. So I like the signing. I think 3 years is smart. And then, if he performs, sign him to an extension. But I don't know. I think the front office combined with the ownership is just nonsense. Like the kicker for me was the not extending Rizzo. I don't mind trading Baez. I don't mind trading Bryant. I don't mind if they traded Contreras. But Rizzo wanted, and he said he didn't care if they went for a rebuild. He wanted to stay with the Cubs, and they still traded him. And like he voiced frustrations with Hoyer about couldn't get eye to eye on an extension, which is just like.
Wasn't the extension that they offered him like a 4-year, $80 million, and he turned it down?
I don't remember.
Same thing with Bryant. Same thing with Baez.
Now he's making less in New York on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, he could say I want to stay with the Cubs, but he also valued himself more, and now he's gone.
Right, and Bryant after his MVP
and he's got to get vaccinated.
After Bryant's MVP year, they offered him. It was upwards of 200. There was some stories came out that it was over 200. Some stories came out that it was over 250. Now he declined that, and now he's making 182 with Bryant.
Well, they said Bryant's gonna make more money doing what he did now than what he was offered from the Cubs over the same time span. So
I think Heyman. Yeah,
I think total
maybe
it was like
more
it's
years.
it's like 225 he's getting offered total. It was more than what the Cubs were offering him in total for the same amount of years.
Yeah, I think I think he kind of wanted to go, and I think it shows. He wanted to go. I think location was important to him more than winning. So I don't. But I think, in my opinion, you got to get the contract.
No, I mean, I agree with you guys with Rizzo because if we did that to Abreu, I'd be kind of pissed. I think the Cubs have way too many holes to fill. I don't know what your farm system looks like. I've never really looked into it.
Well, we have.
But I don't think you have the pitching. You don't have relief pitching. Your outfielders suck.
I don't even care about that because I would see Anthony Rizzo as almost a David Ross. Even like saying a few years Rizzo down the line declines, right? He's not because he's still a very good player in my opinion. But say down the years he declines. I still think he could be that David Ross type player where. He's just the leader in the clubhouse, the veteran. He's been to the World Series, won a World Series with this team. He's been here so long, can help younger players. That's what I saw him as. And after he got traded, I thought that one is the one that pissed me off. I didn't care about the Baez or the Bryant one. And I had said to Ryan and you guys that if we're gonna re-sign one of them in the offseason, I want it to be Rizzo. And there was a story that came out that there's mutual interest in a reunion, but ends up going back to the Yankees. So that's the one that pisses me off the most.
Prior to
rebuild, right?
What'd you say?
The Cubs started the rebuild with trading for Rizzo.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a Freddie Freeman vibe where he's Mr. Cub, So I get like why it stings, but with Chris Bryant, I think he also had like a bad taste in his mouth with what the Cubs did to him and kind of screwed him over with money. But I think that's why he wanted to leave. But
right, the Chris Bryant thing always made sense to me, like the way that it was handled, like him wanting to. I felt that he wanted to leave, and I didn't. That made sense to me. The Rizzo thing is just what pisses me off to the most. I just like it, and the Freddie Freeman thing. Like the thing with the Braves is like they're still competitive, right? Like they're still going to be a good team, and they're still making moves to be a good team as they traded for Matt Olson. Rizzo had literally said, like, I don't care if we're going into a rebuild. Like, I'll go down with the ship. Like, that's basically what he said. And
but I think the difference between that is that they already had their key players locked up. Kind of like what we said earlier, Albies and Acuna. Like if you guys locked up Bryant before he came up, and
I don't know. I just
Baez
think
or something like that.
For a guy,
it's a different ball game.
For a guy like Rizzo and what he could mean to a younger, he can. It's not like he can't play. He can still fucking play. He's still a good player. For what he can mean to the younger guys that are going to get brought up in this rebuild and what they can learn from him, and just that value in itself. And I just feel like what he's done for the franchise since coming here. Not on and off of the diamond, like I don't know. That was the one that, in my opinion, you have to sign. But
for me, it comes down to this. It's at the trade deadline, our prospects we were terrible. Now I think we're like in the top 30 of having good prospects. Also, we also have a shitty owner who wants to buy a soccer team worth $3.2 billion, and we have we are literally, I've always said it. We are up there as far as top market with the Dodgers and the Yankees when it comes to money. We have the money. They don't spend it. And I feel like when it comes down, it could be Jed Hoyer, it could not. I feel like Jed Hoyer is restricted because
I agree. No,
because he doesn't have
the
access with the money.
I told that in the group chat today. I said if we had an owner like a Steve Cohen grew up a Mets fan. He said, I'm gonna do what I can to get this team, good, basically, and doesn't see it as just some investment. I feel like if we had a Steve Cohen kind of owner, a player like a team first owner, I don't think Rizzo's gone. I really don't. I think Correa's signed. Like I don't know. I really do think it's. I think the core source of it is the Ricketts.
Same way with the Sox. We don't fucking spend money. I mean,
and we saw your owner in the Last Dance documentary. He's a villain.
What have you guys done? So you got Joe Kelly and
Josh Harrison. That's our two big additions, which I don't hate. I did at first. Kind of listened to a couple podcasts, and they've kind of won me over. Joe Kelly,
and then you
know how many postseason Tapera.
You officially lost Tapera today.
Yeah, and that one stings.
And then you lost Rodon as well.
Stings. Rodon, I wasn't too worried about. I kind of had an idea he was going to leave. He kind of got money. I'm happy for him. He did what he did. We'll move on. Tapera hurts because he was a really good reliever for us, but we did add Graveman. We still have Kimbrough, who, if he learns how to pitch, it'd be fine because I don't see us trading him until the trade deadline.
In my opinion, your bullpen is pretty, even with the loss of Tapera.
Yeah, we have a really good.
I know Graveman was, so like as a starter, he wasn't good, but the second they moved him to the bullpen, he was really good last year. And the fact that he was a starter, he can give you multiple innings.
And another thing with Joe Kelly was adding postseason experience. Do you know how many games he has as a postseason pitcher?
Oh yeah, because he was on the Dodgers.
He's 40.
He's a good.
And the Red Sox.
Yep.
So
yeah. He
was on the World Series team, I think.
Every time
he was a lead on them, and if he's on, he's on. So I'm not too worried about it. Josh Harrison, I think, kind of helps up the middle a little. I think he's going to push TA in a way that it helps TA. As long as Harrison hits his average, which I think last year he had around 280, as long as he does that, I'm fine with. It's not a bad trade-off. We can live another year without a second baseman.
I'm happy with what they signed. Like you said, Joe Kelly, Josh Harrison, but what I don't like is like they're not spending the money where we need it, like right field, or second base fine. Josh Harrison for 1 year is fine, but spend the money on a right fielder like you need before if Cespedes comes up or whatever, or wherever they want to stick Colas eventually. But you also need a starter pitcher. With Rodon leaving, I don't hate it because I don't think he's going to perform like he did last year. He kind of fell off with his injuries and stuff. I think he was throwing like 87 at the end of the year. But I don't think he's worth $22 million in my opinion. Like, I love the guy. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he made a comeback and he's doing well. But I think the Sox make a trade for one of the A's pitchers, and I think they need to be aggressive in signing a right fielder. And I think that's all they're missing, because if you look at the teams like we talked about, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Rays. I don't know if the Sox are really going to compete against those teams if you're missing those two key pieces, because Dallas Keuchel's falling off. You can't stick Andrew Vaughn or
Sheets.
I don't know, Sheets in right field. It's just not going to work. I don't know. I'd like to see him sign like a. I'd love Castellanos, but I doubt it's going to happen. But I think it's going to be more so like a Conforto or Sean Maeda type deal.
Listen, I know Chad hates the Conforto thing. I think
I don't want it.
Chad,
I do not want it.
If you compare the numbers between Castellanos, Conforto, and Bryant, if I showed you just numbers and I asked you to rank them, 1 through 3, you'd rank Conforto at number 1. I'm telling you.
That actually that reminds me of something
numbers, and it's a perfect lefty bat for this that the Sox need.
I know, and that's the one thing the Sox do need is a fucking lefty bat.
I think Conforto. I think I was actually thinking about it as we were talking about it. I think, Carrera's story is like the best potential player that the Cubs can get, and I think like a Castellanos is like the best potential player you guys can get. And if you can't get him, I think Conforto's a good option. I think he would hit well there. But the one thing you said about like, comparing the numbers reminded me of something I wanted to do later on, like eventually on other episodes of the podcast that I think would be fun is, whoever, me, Chad, or Ryan can get stats of whether we do football or baseball, kind of like a blind resume type thing. Like, I'll grab 3 players right from baseball, list their stats throughout their careers, and be like, which player would you rather have on your team? And like, just that was just a fun game I had thought of that we could eventually do.
Can I ask you guys, what's your guys' game plans with Crochet? Like, is he trying to be a starter, or is he just going to be a bullpen?
He's gonna be a starter. I just think right now I don't think they've come out and said it, but I think right now he's still in our bullpen. The only way to make him the starter is to kind of send him down to AAA and get his arm back into shape, which is not out of shape, but I just think that I personally want him down in AAA just to have him become a starter. But I also do like switching Keuchel to the bullpen and having Crochet be our lefty. That's what I wish they would do, but that's me.
What's the plan with? See, I heard conflicting stories with Kopech. Are they letting him off the leash this year? Or are they not? Because if they do, he has to be the 4th or 5th starter, in my opinion.
Yeah, they said something today during the game against their first spring training game that he had some kind of illness over the winter or something like that, and they're kind of like easing him back into it. But fuck that. Let him throw.
Does that guy have the slowest fucking recovery ever? He had a sickness over the winter? It's March.
I don't know. They said something like that. So
COVID.
What did you say,
I don't
Nico?
really know.
Listen, the thing with Kopech is that he needed like, I always watched him. He's got the stuff, but like it'd be like the 3rd inning and he'd have like 70 pitches.
Yeah, no control.
That's he needs to like working on his control.
But they weren't planning on having him like what did he start? Like, he started double header games, right, and it was games, so you didn't need him to go all 7 innings. It's like, let him off the leash this year. He had his surgery. Let him off the leash. You have to if you play like reserve, and that's not going to win you games. I mean, you have either Crochet or Kopech to start games. Just do it. And I think Cease is going to be an absolute monster this year.
I think he's going to be good this year too.
The piggyback off that, it's kind of like Kopech. They kind of eased them last year just because of the whole Tommy John stuff. So
Right.
I can understand that. And he didn't play in 2020. So I'm not too worried about his arm. I just think that he has some innings under his belt. Get him back into, have him as a full-time rotation starter, number 5 or 4, whatever it is, wherever you want to put Keuchel. And I don't know, maybe split him with Crochet. I mean, you let Kopech throw 4 innings. That's the other thing. Our starters don't have to go 7 innings. If you look at our bullpen now, Graveman,
yeah, you guys are
what kind of
plus.
fucking- yeah, I mean,
Plus the way
regardless, we
that
have so
plus
many
the way
fucking relievers.
plus the way the league is trending, you don't really see pitcher like you'll see the studs definitely going like 7, 8 innings, but like as far for the most part, like the pretty good play. Like I don't know, I feel like the league is definitely trending toward more of like one you've already seen the opener stuff that the Rays are known for, and then I think starters are more consistently doing like more 5, 6 inning stuff. I think with analytics, a lot of teams are trending more in that direction anyways. Plus, like you said, when you have a stronger bullpen, it makes more sense to take some of the heat off of your starters by not having them go as long.
Yeah.
I think like kind of back to like the right field situation. I just don't. Okay, yes, I want Cespedes up to see what he can do. I do think Kola should spend about 2 or 3 years in the minor league system just to see and get him used to what he's doing, because both those players actually did not play didn't play as many games with their whole visa stuff, and Kolas used to be a pitcher too, and then obviously 2020 with no farm system at all playing for anyone. So I mean, do I want them to sign Castellanos? Yes. Do I want them to sign Conforto? No. Is it going to happen? Probably. If they sign Conforto, would I want it? No, I'd rather have them bring up Cespedes, but that's just fucking me.
Now what if they signed Conforto, right? And it was to like a Stroman type deal, like a 3-year,
3 years,
like not crazy overpaid, like just
He's
whatever
he's
his
going to get at least
worth.
20. So he's going to get
20
3 years
so
for
like
60.
So
I
if
think
it was
that's
like a
overpaid.
3-year for 60 to 70 million, like okay, I could kind of understand it if you're sitting there and you get a notification, it's like, oh, they signed to like a Matt Olson, like an 8-year, $100 million deal, right? Something like crazy like that. Like then I could understand. It's like, do I really want Conforto to be a right fielder for 8 years? But I think if you guys got him on like a 3-4 year deal, like 3 years, maybe with a club option or player option or something, I think he'd be a good piece in my opinion. I don't think you need your right fielder to be like, because I feel like you have a guy like Robert who's ready to take that next step. You have a guy like Abreu who is an every year proven great hitter. You have Tim Anderson who definitely needs to work on his walks, but he hits enough to be as good as he is. Moncada. So I don't think you need him to be like your best player, which I think Castellanos, if you got him, would probably be, second, third best hitter on that team. But Conforto, I think, and like you said, you need a lefty bat. Like they kill left-handed pitching.
I don't even think Castellanos would be that high.
You don't think he'd be top 3 hitter on your team?
I don't think he'd be like 5. You got Abreu who usually hits 30,
okay,
100.
Abreu.
You got Robert who's going to hit probably 30 around.
See, those
90.
are the only two I'd put ahead of him personally. I said hitter.
Eloy.
Yeah, and then you got Eloy. Those are our top 3.
What'd you say, Nico?
Tim Anderson bats over 300 every year. I mean, not power-wise, but, he still bats over 300. If Moncada can stay healthy, I'd like to see him bat like 280, 290 this year. But I don't know. Like Chad said, do I want Conforto? No, but will it fill the void? Yeah, I don't think he's worth $20 million a year, though. Maybe 16 tops. If they sign him for like a 2-year deal, wait for Cespedes or whatever. But I don't know. What scares me is, what they did at the deadline last year with Kimbrel and traded Madrigal, because I don't think if Madrigal didn't get hurt, then that trade doesn't happen. At least Madrigal is not in that trade. But like if they go out and get an ace pitcher, it just worries me on who they're going to throw in, because obviously if they make another, in my opinion, I didn't like the Kimbrel trade, so I think it was a bad trade. But if they do another trade like that, then it worries me.
Yeah, what's funny about that too is I talked to Ryan, and because obviously for Cubs fans it was a brutal trade deadline in terms of I mean it had to happen, but I remember talking to Ryan being like, it's funny that coming away from this, I feel like Nick Madrigal is the best player we got from all those trades. Granted, these a lot of young prospects, like very young, that we'll have to see. But it's funny to me that like Nick Madrigal comes out as to this to be, in my opinion, the best player we got, and it was for Kimbrel. Like it wasn't for Rizzo, wasn't for Bryant, wasn't for Baez, it was for fucking Kimbrel. Is the one I feel like we got the best player, and we'll see with these younger prospects.
Well, I think that's just because he's got a lot of hype around him, with him projected to lead the league this decade in hits.
Yeah, and because he was in Chicago, so like
doesn't strike out as much too.
He's in Chicago, so a lot Cubs fans in general have more knowledge of a prospect that you guys had, a young guy that you guys had, as opposed to a Mets prospect, that we might not have heard much about.
I think another thing with the one thing I like, okay, so yes, look back to the Sox really quick on the right field. Yes, we need a right fielder. I don't think Conforto fills anything, because we still have Engel, who plays Gold Glove defense. You still technically have Larry, but I don't really like him out there because he sucks at defense. But I mean, you got all these other guys that can still hit. So it's like, what is Conforto going to bring to the table that these guys aren't? Engel kind of figured something out last year hitting.
I think Conforto as a hitter. I think you're
lefty
underrating Conforto as a hitter, in my opinion. And the fact that he's a lefty, I think, in particular, helps your team.
He's batted above 280 once, and that was in 2020 for COVID. So I don't even count that.
No, I get. I mean, I'm not saying
250, 243.
Okay, I'm not saying he's a 300 hitter, but like that's, I don't know. I'm not saying he's a stud. I just think he's a good fit.
They give a guy $20 million a year.
I just think he's a good fit, and I just think that's the way the league's trending. I don't know. Everyone's getting fucking overpaid, but
yeah, Conforto.
If you're gonna spend the money, like I agree, not on Conforto, not $20 million. If you're gonna go out there and want to make a splash, then be aggressive and sign Castellanos. It's just frustrating. I know they spent money. I think it's like $180 million or something like that, which is like a franchise high. But it's all these like look how many little contracts they signed this offseason, like 1-2 year deals,
right?
Kind of Cubs, and I kind of expected that with the lockout being the way it was, but I don't know.
I feel the same way. Like, and that's how I'd said the same thing to Ryan about the Cubs. Like, I can't be mad. Like, they're making moves, like they're spending money, but it's just like, when you're the favorites, and it seems to be known that you're the favorites to land, who is one of, the best players in this free agency thing. And then, it ends, you're signing infielders to 1-year deals. It just makes it feel like, all right, well, you can't be surprised when we're disappointed.
We have the money. We have 300 plus. We have the money to do it. We're just restricted. Like that's it. At the end of the day,
like I said, we're the same way.
We have the money. It's there. Why do you think we have? We built. We have a parking garage now. We got a hotel next to the stadium. We have all this shit around Wrigleyville. Marquee network. Oh, let's people pay to watch the Cubs play. What are you gonna display for us?
I'll tell you, just a story for me that like absolutely like sucked was last year. I was supposed to go to a game early in the year. It was April. I think it was in April. Got rained out. They rescheduled it for like fucking September, like late. It was maybe late July. It was after the trade deadline. So I'm like, I paid money for these tickets. Go see Bryant, Rizzo. Yeah, I'm not going to see this team now. Like I had to sell them, but yeah.
One thing with with their starting rotation, I don't think the Sox need to make a move for anyone. I don't like Montas. I don't like Manaya. If they got anyone from Oakland, I wish it was Bassett.
And he just went to the Mets.
Which is funny because I actually was talking to Troy about it. And he's like, well, technically we did get Bassett, or we got him last year. We hit him in the fucking head. I'm like, this motherfucker.
You know
But
what?
no,
I don't
I
think
mean,
I don't. You know what? I don't think it's really sunk in with me yet. Is that fucking DeGrom and Scherzer in the same rotation?
yeah, I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. I
That's
really
like
am not
that's
too worried
wild.
about it.
It's just
Healthy.
crazy
But then,
that
yeah,
they're in the same rotation together. Two of, like, you could say, probably two of the top three pitchers in baseball.
Easily.
Maybe
The Mets
top
will-
two pitchers in baseball.
The Mets will find a way to choke, though. They always do.
Probably.
I mean,
yeah.
the Phillies. I think the Phillies will be decent. You know, signing Schwarber. Like Chad said, I'm not too worried about them.
I agree.
They got a good rotation too. They got Wheeler, they got Nola, who can come bounce back. I mean, Wheeler was, did he win Cy Young, or he was top Cy Young
No, he didn't win Cy
candidate?
Young, but he's up there.
I mean, that's the same thing for the Sox. You got Cease, who was up there in strikeouts and all that stuff. You got Lance Lynn, who was a potential Cy Young candidate. You got Giolito, who was up there in strikeouts too. So that's our first three. I really am not too worried about it. You got Keuchel to throw innings. You got Kopech/Crochet on the other end. I mean, I'll take that all. I'll take that all day. I'm not too worried about a starting pitcher. I don't want to trade any prospects for a starting pitcher. So we
If
live
they
on to another
do,
year.
if they do trade prospects, I think 1, 2, and 5 are untouchable, which is Colson Montgomery, Cespedes, and Jared Kelly. The other ones,
Yeah.
fine, you want to trade them, but those 3 players you do not trade.
No, I agree with that. I also Vaughn. I think we don't trade Vaughn. If anyone, we trade Sheets out of those two. Colas is not going anywhere. So I'm really not too worried about. If
I
we
really
can move Yerman or whatever, I don't care.
I personally thought that they were going to trade Sheets last year at the deadline, and I thought that was the reason why they brought him up. Like, hey, come up here, hit, like, show the world what you got, and we're gonna obviously they didn't tell them that, but I think that's what their plan was, and obviously it didn't work out that way. But I thought for sure that's what their plan was. But
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And he's a big lefty bat who kind of proved himself. So I'm not. I feel like he could be moved, but then again, the Sox need lefty bats. So
Yeah. Well, all right. That was one of our longer episodes in a while. A little over an hour and 20. My opinion, that was my immediate thoughts is that was probably the best show we've ever done, in my opinion. But Nico, thanks for coming on. Look forward to having you on again in the future. You want to say that again? It muted you as always.
thanks for having me, boys.
Oh, of course. But yeah, that'll do it for us. Hope you all enjoyed. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, comment any feedback below, anything you'd like us to talk about. What are your thoughts on the NFL and MLB free agency so far? And if you listen on Spotify, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and any feedback you'd give us on there too.
yeah.
We appreciate
Where do you think Seager and all them are going to go? Or, I mean, Correa.
Correa and Story, yeah.
Story.
All right. Appreciate you guys listening, and that'll do it. Later.